Happy Friday the 13th, Steve Sipple.
Oh, God, I didn't even realize that.
I know, it's get you.
Yeah, it's Friday the 13th.
Friday the 13th, as
I'll
we
be damned.
sit here on this Father's Day weekend. Welcome to another edition of HuskerOnline Headlines. We're brought to you by our title sponsor here of StayHome.Care. They offer a lot of the same types of personalized care you might find in a nursing home, right in the comfort of your home. Whether your loved one is young, old, or with a disability, recovering from surgery, or simply just needs extra help when they're sick, StayHome.Care provides consistent, compassionate support from personal care and companionship to daily tasks like laundry, meal prep, and assistance with appointments or outings. We're here when your loved one needs you and you can't be there. Call them at 402-205-2233. Check them out at their website. That's StayHome.Care. Learn more about them, their services. It's never too early again to call. Thanks to the title sponsor here of the Husker Online Headlines Show this Friday, StayHome.Care. But yeah, it's Father's Day weekend. We got it going a little bit. Like my wife and daughters, we went to Texas Roadhouse to kick things off last night. And
what was like Mardi Gras? Is that what Father's Day is for you guys?
Get the whole weekend.
Like a 5-day ordeal?
Well, I picked up that my wife was like, gonna let me do what I wanted to do. So I'm like, hey, let's just go to Texas Roadhouse.
It's a good idea. What'd you have?
I got the ribeye.
That's what you get.
But the girls love it. And at 8:00 at night, the place is still packed. That place is
the old. Okay, we don't do any advertising.
We don't do any advertising. But
I love that place. But for an older gentleman, it's super loud. Like it's a deal breaker. Like it's like I can't hear anything anybody's saying. So I'm just gonna enjoy my food.
It is so inexpensive though.
Is it?
Their top bone-in ribeye meal is $31.
Oh,
like a huge ribeye, 2 sides. I mean, it's crazy. Like that's why
I wonder how that
there.
compares to Outback.
Probably a little bit less.
Are they going head to head?
No, Texas Roadhouse is far bigger.
Outback's atmosphere is much quieter.
You're not and you don't go south.
No, they don't let me go south.
I get a lot order on South.
No, I don't. For the record, I don't.
I mean, I couldn't even. I've never got you to go to Tanner's with me all these years.
Tanner's. I should go there sometimes.
I tried to sell it.
I went there one time. I had Wagyu steak with Frosty.
Yeah, that was the preseason party. But
right,
let's get into it, Coach Self. Let's get into the show. We got a lot to go on here. Headline number 1 on this Friday the 13th. Nebraska prepares for another big recruiting weekend. It's Friday Night Lights for the Huskers, but also a very impressive list of official visitors in town. Leanne Knoll, a 4-star offensive tackle, a 3-star offensive tackle out of New Orleans.
Leon Noyle.
You have Balden Sonye, who's from Denmark but plays in Virginia, and that was kind of the surprise of the weekend when Sonye switched his visit from Georgia to Nebraska. I know Georgia, our own Dogs HQ, they were expecting him in, and he's going to visit Nebraska.
Wow.
Calvin Thomas, who's a 4-star linebacker out of Houston, Texas, will be here. Jacob Eberhardt, an athlete out of St. Louis, a 4-star overall. And then Darian Jones, the last remaining in-state prospect Nebraska is recruiting at this point for 2026, the younger brother of Donovan Jones. That looks to be an Iowa Hawkeye versus Nebraska battle. And then Jamal Rule. We don't know if he's related to Ja Rule.
It's possible he is.
Ja Rule.
Yeah, the rapper.
But Jamal Rule out of Charlotte, another running back, a highly recruited running back. So 2 straight weekends of running backs. But Sonye, to me, is the big story of the weekend.
Well, we always say it. You got to start inside and build out. That's not an original thought. We've been hearing that from coaches since we started covering football. Start inside and build out. Kind of the only coach that I can really remember, maybe not the only one, but one notable coach that sort of diverged from that was Mike Riley. And you saw where that got him. Start inside and go out. So last weekend, you have 4 offensive line recruits on campus. Then it immediately catches your eye. Okay, here's Balden Sonye, and he's a 4-star guy across the board. Florida looks like it has maybe inside track, Sean. Is that right? Florida?
Georgia. I mean, everybody.
You gotta
You can't really go off the RPM. I mean, sometimes
that's what I do.
Skewed by how many visits they've made.
Okay.
Officials, but Georgia, Nebraska, anyone that gets an official visits in the battle.
But you notice this is a heavy SEC, you know.
Well, he's visited officials to Auburn, and he's supposed to go to Oklahoma. Now Georgia's hoping to get in between there. SEC.
Money. Right.
Well,
this is what these are the guys that make the program go. 6'4", 320-pound defensive linemen that are good. That's what makes Sean. That's the heart of your program. That and the offensive line. So no, this is gigantic. It's gigantic that he's here, and it's extremely, extremely important. And so he's visited. This is his third visit.
Yeah, he's come up here in Nebraska, went and saw his family overseas.
Yeah,
and when you do that in recruiting, you have to time that out. Where the day that you visit the prospect, you can also visit another family member. I mean, I've seen it where coaches have visited a prospect and a guy's girlfriend in different states.
This is where I'm going to invoke a line from your tunnel talk today. What we write in what we call tunnel talk. What do you think Sone will be here with his parents?
I don't know that for
somebody.
Sure. I mean,
but what you wrote,
they can pay for the family to come. So yes, if they could be here, they're going to be here.
You wrote this, and I bet it caught people's eye. That Rule spends as much. I mean, this is Sean Callahan talking to 25 years of following this stuff extraordinarily closely. Rule spends as much time around the recruits and their families as any coach you've ever seen at Nebraska. Rule puts in work. I mean, he does.
No, I remember when he first got here, some of those big name guys, they said, yeah, it was odd. Like Coach Rule, like he was a part of everything, like even some of the tours and things.
Right.
A lot of times head coaches just kind of carve a window here, a window there. For Rule, he kind of immerses himself in the whole weekend. And then they spend, late nights with these families. Right. Like he gets together with them and
then he doesn't sleep until 10.
No, when the
he's not sleeping at 10 o'clock.
So in the evening, the players will go hang out with the recruits. They'll go do something, whatever the kid wants to do.
Right.
Then the parents are just there. And that's when Rule kind of in the staff, they spend time together.
And that might go into the
late night.
Yeah.
Yeah. They hang out and just have a good time. And, you just really get to know. Because, the last thing you want to do is like leave those parents out hanging dry. Like you want to be with them as much as you can because they're going to be a big part of this.
Yep.
And as you know, with Rule, he's very honest. He's going to speak the truth.
I know. Yeah, he really is. But the thing that we can say we're not speculating because me and you go to those camps. We go to these camp days all the time. And what do you see? What did you see? What was Rule like on Sunday?
Tired.
I don't think he'd mind us saying that because it suggests that he was, just round the clock working. It was, and then that was Sunday afternoon. And I made the mistake of saying what? Oh, you can take it easy tomorrow. No, because they had OTAs on Monday and those would start early in the morning. Their Junes are ridiculous.
Yeah. They're
ridiculous.
I would imagine they will get there's no camps. And when the recruiting visitors leave Sunday, they'll get Sunday up on Father's Day.
When do the recruiting visitors leave?
They leave in the morning.
Okay. So you might,
they actually don't do that much with the recruits anymore on Sunday. They don't need to because they get these recruits here on Thursday night and then they begin the visit immediately Friday morning. And then they have all day Saturday. So Sunday is usually eat breakfast, go to the airport. There's not really sometimes you might have a visit with the head coach, one final visit or something like that. But generally Sunday, yes, I would imagine the coaches will get there is no camp on Sunday,
right?
Which is a nice deal on that sense. Darian Jones too. That's one.
Darian Jones is another big one, right?
It's big in the sense of the in-state and just the direction it's kind of going this year with prospects in the state. Jace Reynolds being the only current commit. they've had years with just one in-state player before. Josh Banderas was the lone in-state player in his class. Sam Cotton was the lone in-state player in his recruiting class. Also, though, in that walk-on class was like Brandon Riley and Trey Foster and, Janovich and Foltz and Fife. And so,
man, you just reeled off like 5 very good players that were walk-ons. Better times. Ross Dezuris, I think if he didn't lead him in sacks one year, he was close to leading him in sacks.
Utter. I mean, those were all in one walk-on class. Sam Cotton was the only scholarship guy that year that came in.
Those other guys, though, were practically scholarship guys.
Jordy Nelson, Graham Nabity.
Okay. First of all, it's astounding that you're just whipping off those names to me, but
no notes.
That's pretty impressive. That's a great walk-on class.
That's the best one I've ever seen.
Yeah.
In the modern history.
I mean, Janovich, Riley, who else?
Not Banderas.
Banderas.
It was the 1 year they had the one in-state recruit was Sam Cotton. The walk-on class was Brandon Riley, Riker Fife, Sam Foltz, Janovich, Trey Foster, Dylan Utter, Jordan Nelson, Graham Nabity, Ross Dezuris.
There's about 5 scholarship guys.
Oh, no, all those guys.
Yeah.
Every one of them got a scholarship at the end.
I mean, but arguably could have been scholarship recruits.
And then they didn't recruit Drew Ott.
Oh.
And Drew Ott went to Iowa.
Right, and became formidable. Starter.
Blocked a punt on Nebraska.
But back to Darion Jones. He's an intriguing player to me because he's very special teams oriented. He's a demon. He wants to return. He's the type of guy that will raise his hand to return punts. And you're right. It's an in-state guy, and you kind of cringe a little that Iowa's the school that you got to beat.
Kansas State, I think, already feels they're out of it with him.
So it's Iowa, Nebraska.
Minnesota's in the picture still.
Okay.
There's a couple. Iowa State might be in the picture. I think is that he was taking 5 officials. Let me see what we had him at now. That changes obviously. He had an official visit supposedly last weekend to Iowa State and Kansas State last week. He visited Minnesota. Iowa is the last visit after Nebraska.
I sat down with him at the in-state tour, and there's just nothing that's not impressive about him. He's the kind of player you want in your program, a long corner who's a football player. You never have to worry about him. He'd be great to get. What are your chances, Sean? What are you putting it at? 50-50?
Yeah, I still like to give Nebraska an edge, but Iowa's done a lot of good work.
They must be. Maybe
he sees himself with a clear path to play at Iowa. I mean,
it could be.
He's a priority for them as a number one. You just don't know where that's going to go. But we will get a Friday Night Lights camp. I'm still working my way through the lists of names on that, but there'll be about 300 campers there tonight.
So it's still a big camp day. The thing that I'm most interested in is the young quarterbacks there.
If they have any.
If there's a 2027, 2028, like they had on this past Sunday, guys that had big time offers, guys that you have to get in on early.
All right. Big weekend. Stay on Husker Online for that. Let's move on to headline 2. We're brought to you again by StayHome.Care. Call them at 402-205-2233 to learn more about their services. We're also brought to you by Crani-Yum Energy Drink, and it's founded by 2 lifelong Nebraskans, and they're Husker fans. It's based out of Fremont, and they put out a new flavor, Blue Twist, which I had this past week, and it was an outstanding. And now
Blue Twists.
They just came out with a new flavor. It's refreshing. It's sweetness of blue raz paired with a splash of lemon and lime to give it a crisp, dynamic flavor. Crani-Yum is more than just an energy drink. It's highly dosed with nootropics that enhance mental clarity and focus. It's only 150 milligrams of naturally sourced caffeine. It's sugar-free, naturally flavored, no artificial colors, making it a healthier alternative compared to other energy drinks on the market. You can find it at many of your local retailers like Hy-Vee in the health market, or order it online at Drink Crani-Yum. That's Y-U-M at the end of that. That's Crani-Yum with a Y. Use the promo code HuskerOnline, and we're going to give you 10% off that order of Crani-Yum. Again, try Crani-Yum. We're going to give you a discount with the code HuskerOnline 10%. Thanks to Crani-Yum for sponsoring us here on Husker Online Headlines. Okay, let's get to number 2. I want to hit on the stadium for Nebraska. Headline number 2, no news on the stadium isn't necessarily bad news, as the Board of Regents agenda was released yesterday for next week's meeting. And they have to do it by law 7 days in advance. So they put out the full, I'm talking like a 1,300 word file.
And you were perusing through it yesterday.
A little light reading.
So you were just looking, you're just setting up keywords?
Yeah, you just look for keywords in the files that would come up. And but long story short, there's nothing on the June meeting agenda about the future Memorial Stadium project. And look, if there was, we would have been notified ahead of time. I think we would have been on ready to go for it.
100.
And I think a lot of us thought maybe we know something by now.
Yeah, we thought the first quarter of 2025 we thought maybe the price would be laid out. The scope of the project would be laid out. We know there's still stuff we know, right? The South Stadium's coming down. We know that, right?
East and West is going to go to chairback. It's just, what is the final scale and scope of this project? And look, I think we all have a pretty good idea. It's going to be more than $450 million, which was initially the project.
That was the Alberts number
back when 2022 was going on.
The Trev Alberts number.
Right.
The other thing that we have to drive home, because not all fans have this stuff on their minds all the time. This is beginning after the 2026 season.
So we have essentially 2 full seasons of football.
Right.
And that timeline has not changed. I can tell you nothing with the timeline of when this is going to start has changed.
Okay.
It's just the formality of presenting it to the Board of Regents.
Okay.
And there's a lot of, as you know, with budgets in the university, there is a lot of moving parts in terms of the climate of the budget and the cuts and things.
You're talking about optics.
Optics, correct.
You're talking about politics and optics. 2 words that an AD must consider, especially when the project reaches into the $600 million range. And that's what we're talking about, right?
Yeah. I don't want to say I know for sure, but I would like to think this could be 600, 650.
Okay. You wouldn't go much over that?
I would say in the 6 to 7 range. In that window.
It's a huge, but that optics, politics, cuts, budget cuts in the system. And then the ADs over here announcing a $700 million stadium project. You can see that there might be some hesitancy.
Well, as got on the latest budget, last I read that the professors were not in line to get a cost of living raise.
There you go.
So there's like things like that going on, but it feels like it's that way every year.
True.
True. I've never seen
that's a good point.
A budget meeting and coverage of the regents and the university asking for money from the state where they get everything they want. It's always pretty tense.
Yeah. Okay. You wrote in your tunnel talk part, the next regent meetings are scheduled for August 14th and October 3rd. October 3rd. Now think about where October 3rd lines up. It would be the Friday before the Michigan State game, which is game 5. Okay. What's game 4? Michigan. What if Nebraska starts 4-0? What if Nebraska beats Cincinnati, beats Akron, beats Houston Christian, and beats Michigan? Oh, maybe you're about 2 weeks out from the Regents meeting. That's the time.
Dannon may not only announce it, then he might back up trucks of money into the Regents meeting and just shovel out cash right to the meeting. That's about the excitement level there would be if Nebraska was 4-0.
Optics. If you're talking about optics, that would be a good optic. 4-0 off of a win against Michigan at home. Oh, by the way, there's a Regents meeting on October 3rd, 2 weeks away.
Now, could it be August, though?
Well, what would you do, Mr. AD? I'd be tempted to roll the dice. It could mean millions of dollars that you raise. It could be the difference in millions of dollars.
Yeah, because not much would change from now to the August meeting.
What would change?
But what we don't know is how much private money needs to be raised and how they're getting it. And, Trev initially had a contract with an outside fundraising agency.
Yes, he did.
That was going to make
a firm in Omaha
millions.
Would you call that a firm or just a private entity? I don't know what the hell.
It's just a group, a fundraising group.
Okay,
but they got paid
handsomely
in the millions to not raise any money. Hell of a deal. Where do I get that deal? But it was a Board of Regents contract.
You could probably get it actually, but yeah, no, I got you. That was a Board of Regents contract.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, let's not
there are
talk about
payments
this.
on that contract that were like $250,000 a month to raise the money. Now, and to my knowledge, I don't know if any money got raised.
I don't know. Maybe it did. So
no, the issue back then was there wasn't a project to show.
right.
So when you go to people and say, okay, yeah, I'll give you money, but what's it going to look like?
We don't know.
It never got that far.
Yeah.
We just had kind of the bare bone kind of sketch. I mean, there was never like details of the project.
And then Trev is off to Texas A&M.
Well, keep in mind the last time this got done by Trev, Ted Carter announced he was leaving like a few weeks before. So it was all being done with a lame duck president. Yeah. None of that felt right.
No.
At that point. And also the uncertainty of the college football landscape with the money and the NIL to kind of push that stadium project through. It didn't feel right yet at that point, just because you didn't know what was coming.
Right. We have a better idea. And I think correct me if I'm wrong, I think we have a decent idea based on Troy Dannon's previous comments made as far back as last fall, that the South Stadium is going to come down. But when it goes back up, it might be even more enclosed. And I think what he wants is a scoreboard that stretches the entire width of South Stadium to really give it an enclosed feeling. Now, I may be talking out of turn a little bit here, but I think that's what they want. I think they want to bring that in and have it more intimate than it already is, which is pretty intimate as it is, right?
No, I think he's got big plans.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. Like, this is always something Nebraska fans talk about, like, or you see talked about. The University of Nebraska has no debt. Like,
okay.
And they're probably one of the only athletic departments in the Power Four that probably have never really carried much debt. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I mean, because if you are a big business operation that you know is successful and makes money, isn't it okay to carry some debt on a project? And they're going to have to on this one.
Valid question.
But what I'm trying to think who said this to me. It's probably someone that's not here now anymore. But he's like, "Is that a good thing that we don't carry debt?" I mean, like like we pride ourselves, we're debt free,
right?
When you're bringing in hundreds of millions, you're good for it.
Yeah, you don't have to be debt free.
No, like it's kind of like this Nebraska mindset, like we don't get credit card debt. I mean, it's like, but I think when you're building something like this, it's okay to have some debt.
I agree. It's just like everything.
But like that,
it's just like everything.
That Go Big project. I mean, they had it went all the way down to the wire.
The Go Big project included it's a football training facility, and that was $165 million, but it grew a little bit to 167. Yeah, but that's the football training facility.
Even when they
165 when they announced it at 150 initially,
and
right?
It went up.
Yeah.
Even when the skyboxes were built for the 99 season,
way back.
Paul Myers told me this on my first book I did, that it went down on the wire. I mean, they literally signed they had to get all the leases of 10 years or 15 years signed for the suites, and it went all the way down the wire as far as getting all the signatures on leases so they could go forward with the project.
I imagine there was some stress involved.
They had never done that before.
Right. That's some stress.
Bill Byrne really took Nebraska football more into a corporate thing, where before it was kind of more grassroots.
Bill Byrne was a visionary, and a complete visionary. Arguably the best AD Nebraska's ever had. Hello.
Yeah, back
am I wrong?
They just didn't think like how much money needed to be raised. I mean, there was like a group of gentlemen that gave, hey, if you give $50,000, we're going to give you like 50-yard line seats, like 20 of them for life. Like that's how they did things back then. Now, I mean, it's a corporate type structure with how Nebraska football is run.
Quick Bill Byrne story for you. You'd appreciate this. It was back when they put those video boards in the corner of the end zones. You know what I'm talking? The video,
the Husker Vision boards.
Yeah, the Husker in the corners, and it was a huge deal.
They were the first college stadium to have them.
God, okay. So I wrote the local columnist, a pretty young columnist, said, "I don't like this because I like
tradition.
I like Wrigley Field. I don't want to junk it up." I wrote a whole column about it. So we're standing. You understand because you've been in this situation. So I'm standing with about 14 sports writers before a game that fall in the press box. And I'm just talking like we do, and Bill Byrne comes up.
Oh, God.
And he comes up to me in front of everybody. I mean, officials, sports writers, and says, Sipple, that column was bullshit. It was bullshit. And just lit me up. I mean, I was like, well, I guess we just got to agree to disagree on this.
I interviewed Jeff Schmall about the starting.
Do you remember that?
And so Jeff Schmall did tell me how worried people were that it was going to take away the pureness of the game day environment.
Right.
But then what they figured out was the tunnel walk kind of changed college football.
I was wrong.
Stadium interests. Like everybody does something like that. But Nebraska's tunnel walk was so far ahead of everybody else in terms of entering the stadium, how they came on the field.
Yeah, Bill knew all that probably and didn't like the fact that the local daily took issue with what he was doing. I totally understand.
Yeah. Small's quote to me was, we wanted to the late Jeff Schmall. We wanted to create something that gave people like a sensational feeling, like goosebumps. And he goes, the tunnel walk,
right.
gives you goosebumps, like that, the feeling of like the team coming out and being a part of that moment, and especially when they were really good.
Yeah,
like it was like
you would get to your seat and say, I don't want to miss a tunnel walk.
So and it got harder and harder to like top the tunnel walk every year.
It's like tunnel talk. It's getting harder and harder to top.
The funny thing about the song, though, they not ripped it off, but the Bulls used that song, the serious song.
The Washington Bullets?
No, the Chicago Bulls.
Oh, I thought you said the Bullets. I'm sorry. I thought maybe
in the 90s that was
Wes Unseld was coming out
song
to
the Bulls came out to, and
I knew that.
Chris Anderson brought that as an idea to them, like this could be a good song for the team here to walk out to, and that's how that started. It was in a meeting with Jeff Schmall, Chris Anderson, and maybe even Steve Peterson.
Chris gets the credit for that.
Chris was one of the ones that brought up the song. That's what Jeff told me, that she was one of the people that suggested the song.
Kudos to Chris Anderson.
But it was being used by the Bulls, but you didn't have YouTube and things back then. It's not like you knew.
Right.
Like, how'd you have known?
Hell, maybe the Washington Bullets were using it too, and we didn't know.
You could just do whatever you want back then. All right.
Bobby Dandridge was coming out of the tunnel to it.
Let's go to headline 3.
You don't know the name.
Before
Bobby
we go to headline 3, brought to you again by StayHome.Care. They're there for you, your loved ones. Call and learn about their services at 402-205-2233. We're also brought to you by Billings Group. They're a trio of financial advisors made up of Lance and his 2 sons-in-law, Josh and Nate. Yep, sons-in-law, 2 of them. They're based in Salina because somebody has to be, and they serve clients in more than 10 states, including places you've actually heard of like Nebraska, Colorado, and Texas. They do financial advising and coaching, investment management, basically all the stuff that you should be doing with your money, but you probably aren't. Also, Nate's a lifelong Nebraska fan and a longtime listener here of Husker Online. If you ever watched Nebraska football or the stock market, both are emotional roller coasters, and that's why Billings Group is here to walk you through the highs and the lows. Billings Group, financial advisors by your side for life's journey. They don't offer therapy, but they are good listeners, as is Steve Sipple, by the way.
Pretty good.
You offer therapy to a lot of people, though, too.
God, that's a scary thought.
Visit them at billingsgroup.com. Securities offered by registered representatives through Private Client Services, member for SIPC. Advisory services offered by investment services advisory representatives through RFG Advisory, registered investment advisors, RFG Advisory, Billings Group, and Private Client Services, not affiliated entities. Did I get it? It's a little sloppy.
Yeah.
I've had people email me on a couple of those things. I
am astounded by it. Okay. Because of what I said in the previous show, which I'll restate. When I heard it on the radio, I just always figured they sped up the sound. That you weren't doing that. That wasn't live. Wow.
I don't understand. Like, it is kind of nuts. You have to read all that.
Yeah.
Like, can't the Billings Group just do a commercial? God, like, why do they have to go through all that to say what their business is?
Don't question it. Stop right there.
It's like a Bill Callahan play call.
Oh,
all right. Let's go into headline number 3.
Yes.
Early special teams buzz.
Oh, yes.
And for Nebraska, you had some of it in Tunnel Talk, but
so did you.
Archie Wilson, the punter, has been on campus, gone through workouts, and the reports are very strong thus far on Archie and kind of what he's looked like. So that's exciting. I mean, the immediate things I've heard is like, wow, he kicks it equally as good with both his left and his right foot.
Game changer, perhaps. I hate to say that, but I mean, yes, they have had practices, June, we talk about June all the time. And there is a lot, like the players like him. They understand how important he is, and they're seeing progress already. Now, the question, it kind of begs the question that this has been on my mind lately. I don't think we talk about, maybe we don't think about it as much, but as much as we should, is how much could special teams get? How much better could it get? Would you say? I mean, how much better?
Well, they were putting like 12, 13 punts inside the 20. And
who's they?
Nebraska.
Yeah.
Last several.
I thought you meant Tennessee.
Can they get it up into the 20s?
Right.
Like, it doesn't sound like a lot, but if you're averaging, let's just say 2 to 3 punts per game inside the 20,
it sounds like a lot
versus maybe 1.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot.
Think how much that changes a game for your defense.
Right. Changes the game for everybody. And that I just know, and I don't know. It's not like I talked to Mike Eckler that much, but you could tell, you could just see at camp. He's a supremely confident individual, right? That alone, I mean, it gives me optimism. But it's more than that. I think that he had to kind of blow up the kicker room a little bit. I mean, he brought in Kyle Cunanan
and the snap. Well,
the snapper.
Ed Foley brought in Gaelic,
right?
But
they have a new snap. They have a new snapper. They had to blow up that operation, and I just think everything's going to look better. And then the other thing that we don't talk about enough is what they've done as a program is added a lot of athleticism to the roster. And where's that show up? A lot of it shows up on special teams. He's going to have a lot of very athletic players at his disposal, guys that you don't think about all the time, like a Vince Genatone. We're even hearing, and I wrote it in Tunnel Talk, we're starting to hear a name that when he came in, I was immediately taken by. Then he was hurt in the spring, Jameer Khan. Hurt in the spring, right? Didn't hear anything about it.
He didn't practice all spring.
Right. And I think he could be a demon on special teams. Keep an eye on that. But there's a long list of guys that come to mind on this team that are very athletic. Jeremiah Charles, right? What could he be on special teams? There's a lot. There's a lot of guys.
Yeah, like Genatone, people forget he was a 10-500 guy.
I thought of Genatone because we saw him the other day walking through the weight room. God, you got to get an athlete like that out there. I mean, that's a serious athlete, Vince Genatone. I mean, big, strong,
multi-state champ wrestler.
Yeah,
10-500 guy.
I mean, just looking at him shouts D1. I mean, so yeah, I think that Eckler, I think would tell you at Tennessee, that head coach wasn't big on a lot of the key guys playing special teams. So he used a lot of young guys, walk-ons. At Nebraska, he'll use some walk-ons. But there'll be a lot of scholarship.
They have to get their holder figured out. And a name to watch is Jalen Gramstad there.
Is that right?
Yeah, Camden Cook would be the other one. But don't you want a holder that you can do stuff with? Yes, I do. And Gramstad immediately strikes me as a very viable option because because the perception is he's very steady. Very steady. Like he's one of those guys that he's good at, like ping pong. He's good at everything.
There's that too.
He's just good at stuff he does. Like he's the best golfer on the team. He's the best.
Well, right. And then you talking about him being able to do stuff at the camp. We were talking to a guy who played against him. I think the guy was from Morningside, right?
Yeah.
And he said that when Gramstad had the ball in his hand as a quarterback, he was on offense and he was on the sideline. But he said, I felt fear just watching from the sideline because you're like, now what's he going to do? Essentially the two-time Heisman winner of that division. And so, yeah, he can do stuff. Gramstad can do stuff.
and he said the Morningside coaching staff, when he picked Nebraska, they threw a party.
When Gramstad chose to leave and came to Nebraska, the Morningside staff threw a party. They were happy.
Because it got them back to be a national championship type team again. Because Northwestern is still one of the best ones, but they had the edge over their program.
Gramstad gave them that.
But yeah, that will be. And I think when you do a travel roster of 74 players, I don't know if you can take Camden Cook on that.
Good point. Yeah.
I think you would want to have your specialist spots.
By the way, people are going to wonder, well, what about Camden Cook as a backup punter? I think it'd be Cunanan as a backup.
So yeah,
punter.
so on a road trip, you would travel Cunanan, John Hall, Archie Wilson, your snapper, probably 2 snappers.
That's it.
And that you have 5 right there. And then you have your backup quarterback serving as the holder, which makes sense.
Yeah, Cunanan is not a rollout punter. He's not. He's a pocket punter, but you can go to him.
American punters generally aren't trained in that way.
Right. So Nebraska could switch to a pocket scheme like that.
What's funny though is the Coles kicking camp, they now have introduced the rugby rollout stuff as part of their curriculum.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah, you do. It's in the best interest of the players.
But special teams exciting. I do think Nebraska will take a long snapper in this recruiting class, and they had both of the candidates they won on campus this
Kid
week.
from Papillion South, Dolphins.
So Sam Dolphins, who's been offered by Auburn, one of the best in the country, but then Travis Wakefield from Lipscomb Academy in Nashville, Tennessee, another guy that they brought in. So they have 2, and I think Eckler's got a connection to Wakefield from his time at Tennessee. And that's who he would have probably recruited in Knoxville. So between those 2, I think you're going to see one of them get an offer to be the long snapper.
I'll tell you what, Sean, just wrapping up the conversation. If you're a Nebraska fan and, it's June 13th right now and you're just sitting around, you want to be optimistic. Think about a picture with an offense that is markedly better than last year, coupled with a special teams that is markedly better and maybe a top 40, top 30 unit nationally, across the board. Okay. That would help alleviate, like what you're talking about is pinning offenses deep. You're maybe you feel a little shaky about the defense. Not everybody does. McElroy, the college football analyst, thinks Nebraska will have a top 10 defense. The former Alabama quarterback, you know who I'm talking about?
Oh yeah.
I don't know about that. But if you feel a little shaky about the defense, well, what if the offense is markedly better, which we think it could be, and special teams is markedly better?
I like, though, is they're not going to see really an elite offense earlier in the year.
No, not any offense either that really you look at and say, oh, my God, they're just going to line up and run it
like
at us.
Michigan 2023.
Yeah, Michigan's talking about not being as power run oriented this year. It won't be like Blake Corum. Remember when we went to Michigan and covered the game in Corum? It would just be like, okay, Corum, they did pretty well on that play. Oh, no, he got 6. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, they did pretty good on that. Nope, got 7. You just couldn't do anything.
Harbaugh just rammed it up Nebraska up the middle the whole game.
Right. So I don't think they have that this year, Sean. I don't think they have that.
All right, let's before we go to headline number 4, again, we're brought to you by StayHome.Care. They're there for you, your loved ones, and give them a call at 402-205-2233 to learn more about them and the services they can offer to you. Also want to plug Omaha Steaks, one of our sponsors here of the show. It is Father's Day. They've got the great promo going on right now. Again, you can still get a box of steaks with the promo code HuskerOnline. They've already got everything marked down at over 50% off at omahasteaks.com. If you use the promo code HuskerOnline, we're taking another $35 off that. But I do got to plug this. I am going to be a part of on Father's Day. There's a smash burger cook-off in Dingerville. Coach Rule, Brennan Stye, I'm going to be a part of that as well.
Dingerville
in Omaha.
At the CWS.
So it's a little bit more safer than being part of a punt catching competition. I can handle the burger cooking.
Dingerville. So it's like in a tent at the CWS.
Yeah, in the party zone.
That's where you belong, is the party.
I'm with my family. We're all going to go. So I am going to be a part of this with Coach Rule and Brennan Stye. Nate Rempe, the CEO president, actually talked to him Monday night, and he's going to be there. He asked me about doing it, and then I got the invite today, so I'm doing it, I guess.
What is your role?
I need to read the email, but I think I'm cooking. We have a list.
You're in a cooking competition.
So we have a list of ingredients that we have to cook a burger with, and then go from there.
Wow.
And then you'll be judged.
Wow.
It's pretty, I mean, it's a pretty
elaborate
list of ingredients.
Are you on a team or is it Sean Callahan?
I need to find all this out still.
I'm very interested.
Would you want to be on my team?
I would prefer just spending the day with my dad. Thank you. But
see, my dad's going to be working.
Right. Your dad's
at the stadium.
Yeah. Your dad's there.
He runs the press box elevator area.
That's amazing.
At CWS.
Yeah. So it's perfect for you. It's a perfect situation.
So if you want to really see me, I'm going to be there around 3. I think it starts at 3 in the cross strain area. And we're making some smash burgers.
That'll be fun.
I've made enough of these smash burgers. I know what I'm doing.
I know you do. I think you'll be if you're competing, which you're not sure if you'll be a judge or if you're competing, you'll be formidable. But you'll be competing against people that are probably
the ingredients too are like there's like cream cheese, peanut butter, like all sorts of just random. And that's not me. Like, I don't like, let's make the most crazy sounding burger ever.
Yeah. I've never even had cream cheese. I'm more of a
traditional, let's make it really good.
I've never had cream cheese on a burger.
Like have you ever had an egg on a burger?
Yes. Egg burger. I'm from Columbus. There was a bar that served them all the time. Egg burgers. They're famous.
I might go.
Bacon, I think it was Mesex.
Cheese, bacon, egg.
Cheese. Wait a second. Cheese, bacon, egg. Yeah. But like a breakfast burger.
Yeah.
Yeah. That'd be good.
I mean, you could do a lot of different things.
It sounds really good. That sounds really good, actually.
But yeah, avocado is an option. Lots of options.
I don't do the avocado thing. I don't do that.
You're not a big avocado toast guy?
No. Good God.
Okay. Let's get into headline 4. What day is it, Sip?
It must be, if it's Friday, it must be Flashback Friday.
Flashback Friday. Let's take it to 2012.
Okay.
Nebraska traveled to Northwestern for the very first time as a member of the Big Ten Conference.
Seems like it was late October.
And Northwestern wasn't really ready for the Big Red as far as the crowd and what to expect in that game.
Oh, and the team was ready.
The team was ready, but there were 30,000 Nebraska fans that just completely took over Northwestern Stadium. And we'll get into that. But the game itself was really interesting because Nebraska was down 28-16.
Yep.
Midway in the fourth quarter with 8:31 remaining. So you're thinking they're going to lose. They're down by 3 possessions.
Yep. Nebraska they had already lost 2 that year. Nebraska. In fact, 2 weeks earlier, what had happened? They got blown out by Ohio State. 63-28 is the final. No, 63-38.
And this is the year Nebraska went on to win their division in the Big Ten.
So, yeah, I mean, it's just more game stuff. Taylor Martinez, sometimes you forget about him as a passer, but he threw for 342 yards and 3 touchdowns, no picks. Hit Ben Cotton with a 7-yard pass. Just over 2 minutes left that gave them the lead by 1, gave him the 29-28 lead, which is the eventual final score. Do you remember Jeff Budzine barely missing wide right with about 70 seconds remaining, their kicker?
It was a long attempt, though, right?
But did he barely miss it?
Yeah. Now,
do you remember it?
Pull up the play-by-play on that because I do remember.
That's what the story said, the AP story, that he barely missed it. I didn't remember that necessarily. But anyway.
Yeah, it was a field goal attempt. It was a 53-yard.
53, yeah.
And there was 1:10 left.
Right.
And so he missed that. Then Nebraska had the ball. And Brett Maher punted after 4 plays. Then Northwestern got the ball with 4 seconds remaining.
Yeah, Maher was the punter and the place kicker. But why are we talking about this? So what do you remember most?
I mentioned that crowd at the stadium and Nebraska fans kind of taking over. Well, I don't think Northwestern had ever seen anything like this before. It got so loud in their own stadium, they couldn't run their offense because
Right.
the Nebraska fans got so loud.
They
So
went to silent.
Northwestern had to switch to a silent count
On
like
their
you
home
do on the road
Right.
in their own stadium. And
Wow.
that just doesn't happen.
No.
That's unheard of
So,
in
wow.
any form of sports, that the visiting team took over to a level where the home team had to change like they were playing on the road.
Flashback Friday. I'm glad we do these because what I think of when you're talking about that is just the level of enthusiasm for Nebraska's program was so enormous at that point. The Big Ten was still, it was, obviously it's very fresh.
This is the first Chicago trip.
Yeah, very fresh. It was our first trip. I wasn't working with you at that point, but it was kind of like that. And it was exciting going to Northwestern. And then seeing that. And I remember and I think you were probably down there with me. We always go down to the field at the end of games with about 7 minutes to go, whatever it is. And we were down there for that Cotton catch. And Cotton was right in front of us, and he let out a visceral yell. And it was exciting. Nebraska fans were crazy in that end zone. I mean, it was nuts.
Yeah, that was always a trip, though, every time we've been, where Nebraska just travels like crazy. And the unfortunate thing is Nebraska has not played there since 2018 with fans.
Yeah, because the last time we were there, it was the quintessential weirdo experience.
Well, yeah, 2020 was the COVID game,
Right.
where
weirdo central. I mean, right?
Yeah, it was totally locked. I mean,
I was eating like I got upbraided by some.
They told you could have you'd have your mask down while you eat, and
Yeah.
Sipple was eating, and he got completely reamed for having his mask down
Yeah.
in the press box.
But I was still eating that sort of squirrel food that they gave us.
Yeah, it was
Remember, it was like squirrel food.
it was just like a fancy box of
Nuts.
organic treats.
It barely qualified as food. Okay, I mean, it was like they scooped it off the grass and gave it to
So
us.
that 2020 season, I traveled.
Am I in trouble at this
I
point?
traveled alone.
Am I in trouble?
No, Robin didn't go on. We just went one person on the road,
Is that right?
and because you didn't do the interviews in person, but I went to a steak place I always go to,
You did?
called The Barn in Evanston.
Was it open?
But in order to be open, you couldn't dine indoors.
Right.
So they set up like wedding tents
I
in the
remember
parking lot.
I remember this.
And they put chandeliers, folding tables, and it was okay to eat in this wedding tent, but not okay to eat in the restaurant.
All right, that's enough. Flashback Friday.
Northwestern.
But go ahead.
They're building the new stadium right now, and I shared on Twitter or retweeted somebody this week the picture of the stadium of Northwestern where it's at, and it's a complete rebuild, and that's going to be exciting. Now, Nebraska, I need to double check this, but I think they're supposed to go out there in 26.
Geez, not till then.
Well, it's 25 right now.
Okay.
It's 2025. Right?
Come on, Sip. All right.
But it is kind of
Just a
nuts. I think
lapse.
Husker fans are going to go almost 10 years between trips to Evanston.
That is really nuts. Just a couple more things about this game you're talking about. Remember, I always like pointing out the talent level. That's when Nebraska had Quincy Enunwa, who had 110 yards receiving that game. Kenny Bell, six catches, 77 yards. And Nebraska had Abdullah and Burkhead. Burkhead went down early in that game. And Amir came in and ran for 101 yards. Young Amir, right? 2012 is young Amir. Yeah, that's young Amir.
Levante David would have been done on that team. He wouldn't have been on the 2012 team. He was on the 2011 team. But Randy Gregory, I believe, would have been in this game.
2012? Absolutely.
No, wait. Randy was 13 and 14.
Yeah, you're right.
13 and 14.
You know who was the surprise of the game for Nebraska? I'm quizzing you. The surprise offensive player of the game came kind of out of nowhere and caught a huge pass.
It was a receiver.
Tariq Allen.
I was going to say Malik Holt.
No, Tariq Allen.
Yeah.
Remember, he was kind of like, wow, they went to Tariq Allen. He caught a 7-yard touchdown pass in that game. So that's what I remember about it.
Yeah, Nebraska fans took over the purple line on the L train to go down to Evanston.
Yep. That was 2012.
2012, Nebraska. And that game kind of helped them win the Big 12 Legends division back then.
Yep. Nebraska needed that win badly because they had already lost 2.
I mean, that was a 10-2 team. They went 10-2 in the regular season.
So they won. Yeah.
Then they lost to Wisconsin. Then they lost.
Oh, that's right. Because Bo, after 63-38, said we need to win out.
Yeah. Then they lost to Georgia in the bowl game.
Am I remembering that right? Yeah. After 60,
I told the team we need to win it. They lost to UCLA. They blew it, and then Ohio State blew them out.
63-38, and then Bo told the media after the game, I told the team we have to win out, and I thought he was crazy. I was like, wait a second, you just told your guys you got to win out,
and they did.
Yeah.
All right, lots of fun. Flashback Friday.
I love those.
Let's.
Do we have an idea for next Friday?
We'll see. We'll see. I'm still trying to figure out how you don't realize that 2026 is next year.
I just had a lapse. Okay.
Really? I go, that's next year. I don't even know for sure, by the way, if that is next year. Then they play.
Right.
I need to double
check. Don't worry about it.
But I'm worried about.
I don't even know what year it is, so don't worry about it.
Next year, Sip. All right. Final headline before we get into it again. Thanks to our title sponsor of StayHome.Care. Call them, learn more about their services, what they can do for you, your family, your loved ones. Simple things like cooking, cleaning, rides, grocery shopping, or just companionship. You need somebody to be with a loved one for maybe just a few hours of the day. Call them at 402-205-2233. Learn more about them and their services they can offer you. Okay, odds and ends. Let's close out the show. I have 2 that I want to get on. First one is got the book. I got the first copies yesterday of the new book. So
hold it up more.
It's not going to be out until late July as far as like general public. But I got my first copies. It was a nice surprise.
Okay. First of all, hardback. The book you wrote years ago.
2 years ago.
Okay. Was it only 2 years ago? That was not hardback. This is really handsome.
Oh, the book I wrote. Oh, the book I wrote years ago. I'm like, this book I just wrote.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm talking about that.
Oh, yeah. The first book was 2013.
I was going to say, God, am I completely losing my... No, I was right. The first Husker book you wrote was, several years ago. And it was it was great, but it was not hardback. I kept that book as reference material. I have it with me all the time. This book, wow. I mean, I don't mind doing this for you, promoting it a little bit. I don't mind doing it because I know how much you put into it. It wasn't just you saying, okay, we had covered a lot of this stuff. I'll just go back and write what I've wrote. No, there's a lot of new material in there. This is not just a raw stock, boilerplate writing book. This is, you get into the weeds. I'm sort of surprised how much you got into the weeds on some stuff.
Yeah, you read through my Frost chapter.
Wow, yeah.
And, I think when I put this together, I wanted to get a lot of my own stuff,
fresh
stuff. And I wanted to talk to people that I knew were opinionated, but maybe haven't given these opinions.
You did that.
And I got some good people, but, Tom Osborne, I talked to for over 3 hours for it.
You sat with Osborne for 3 hours.
2 sessions.
Yeah. You talked to a lot of people.
Bob Devaney's son, Mike
Devaney.
And he was a college student when his dad took the Nebraska job. So he was with him for every step of the way here and can remember it.
Talked to Frank Solich
at length.
Talked to Jim Walden. And people won't remember that name.
Former Devaney player, former Nebraska coach. But yeah, go down. Zach Taylor did a full story with Zach Taylor and just his time here. I did a Sam Foltz chapter 2 in the book, and I was able to talk to Jamie Cole at length, and he talked about Sam's impact.
Jamie Cole, you need to tell people who
Cole's
Jamie
kicking camp, the main kicking expert for the country, and he relived that night of when he got the phone call and the tragedy and just
what a horrifying time.
He said he had never felt that feeling in his life when he got that phone call. And there's been some just great accounts, and I covered the rivalries too. So it's a book that you can skip around. You don't have to read it in order, but it's broken down into the coaches, and I highlighted 5 key coaches from Nebraska: Osborne, Devaney, Solich, Pelini, and Scott Frost. I didn't want to get into like the way early years because you can't really get a lot of people to talk about like Jumbo Steam.
No.
And some of these great coaches from the 20s. Then Legends was kind of a hard thing to do. because there's a lot of legends.
Right.
So what I did was I broke it up into categories. I picked one 1960s legend, Bob
Okay.
Brown, one 70s legend, Johnny Rogers, one 80s legend, Mike Rozier, and maybe you could have gone Dave Remington, maybe you could have gone Turner Gill, but I went with Rozier because he was the only Heisman winner of the 80s. The 90s legend, I went Frazier, and then I went with Sue as the legend of the 2000s.
You picked right guys.
So that was the way to do it, because I'm like, God, if I just called 5 guys the legends, then there's going to be 20 guys mad I didn't include them.
Frost is a legend, a legendary player. That chapter on Frost that you opened with his appearance before his final season, which was 2022, it was in Kearney. He was talking to about 50 people
In a room that was set up for like 500 people.
Yeah, but I'm not going to give away the whole thing because it's a great chapter. But you did a great job of painting this picture of Frost right nearby his hometown on this Husker tour, and all there was 50 people in this auditorium.
And it was a tour that
was an auditorium.
It was a tour, conference room,
conference
like
room.
a pristine conference room that hosts many statewide conferences. The unit
set up for 500 people.
Yeah,
and there were 50 there, and half of them were bank officials
that were sponsors. And this was a tour that Nebraska marketed. It wasn't like just some grassroots thing. It was a well-marketed tour.
And Frost had that golden quote about, I think about Charlie Daniels' band that used to, be a sellout venues. And then they were just playing county fairs. It tells me I better start winning. That's a magical quote. And Frost had to know at that point that.
I don't think he knew yet, because I think he liked his team going into 21.
Okay.
But then the team lost all those close games.
Yeah.
I mean,
they changed AD in a month. A month later, they changed the AD.
And Moose got fired right during that period.
July 25th. You're talking about a scene that occurred in mid-June. A month later, all of a sudden, Moose was gone.
I thought Moose was gone 2 weeks later in late June, and then Trev was hired in mid-July.
Oh, no, you're right. I'm so sorry. Yeah, that's exact. God, Moose was gone 2 weeks
right
later.
After that tour.
That's right. 2 weeks later, because it was June 16th that you're talking about Frost, and it was June 25th where Moose was gone, because I was on vacation, and I remember that. It was late June. And I thought, what could possibly happen? And there it was, of course.
And then they brought in Trev. But yeah, so that was fun. I did the rivalries chapters where I hit on Iowa, Texas, Colorado, and Oklahoma as the 4 core rivals of Nebraska football.
What I would say is there's a lot in that book that will be fun reading, but I think the thing that made the biggest impression on me is how many fresh interviews you did when you didn't have to necessarily do that, but you did. That summer you did that I was frankly worried about you.
Yeah, it wasn't last summer. It was the summer before.
Yeah.
And then it was supposed to come out, last fall. But I'm okay with it. I think we're in a good place to release this book.
I do too. And
I wanted it out in late July, because I do think there's always a lot of momentum to sell books.
It's a good time.
That's the perfect time to do it. So
it's a good time.
We've already got a bunch of signings and events lined up in Omaha and Lincoln and Kearney. I'm going to be in Wichita with the book, and there'll be many more. But you can buy the book anywhere that sells books. Barnes & Noble, Target, Nebraska bookstore is going to have. Everywhere will have it. Obviously, online, Amazon is probably the easiest place to order it online in terms of the shipping and how it works. And you can pre-order the book right now.
Yeah, I think it's a great gift. It doesn't have to be a gift.
Hardcover book.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be a gift. Just buy it, read it. It's edification.
No, but when you do those things, you're like, God, this is a lot of, but then now I'm thinking in my mind, well, when's the next one coming now?
I don't know how you do it.
I don't know either. Because you've been asked to do books.
Yeah, I'm not ready for that. If I didn't have that damn radio show, I might do it.
You're still trying to figure out that 2026 is next year.
I always have to stop and think what year it is. And you're right. We're in 2025 right now. So.
Okay. Also odds and ends. How about our friend Vince Marrow?
Vince Marrow goes from Kentucky to Louisville. to be the general manager.
That'd be like Fred Hoiberg leaving to go to Creighton.
Yeah. I think that's apt. Yeah, that's an apt analogy.
Red and blue even.
Yeah. So Vince Morrow was never a huge name here with the fans. I'd say with you and some media corps pretty big, but he didn't resonate much with fans, I don't think.
Well, he began to start recruiting, but it was awkward because he was never a full-time coach.
But that's awkward.
Like,
yeah,
there would always be a coach having a surgery or a coach kind of in transition that left the program. So there'd always be a spot available. So Bo would put Vince out on the road to recruit.
And then Vince is this ultra aggressive, I'm going to push the envelope alpha. So it's not a typical fill-in. When he fills in, you're kind of like, wait a second, maybe this guy should be doing more, right?
And so he started to get a lot of commits here. But I first met Vince when he was with the Omaha Nighthawks. We would stay at that.
The Nighthawks.
He was an assistant.
That's an outdoor team.
And the
semi-pro.
The UFL team that Omaha had.
Yeah.
And he was an assistant. And I would stay at the Holiday Inn before the Big Red Breakfast always the night before. And they had a little lobby bar there. And I'd sit down there and watch football on Thursday nights. And Vince Marrow was in there. And that's how we met. And, on that Nighthawks team, you had like Jeremiah Masoli.
Well, you had Crouch at one point.
Maurice Claret.
Yeah, you had Eric Crouch.
Jeff Garcia.
Yeah.
Amon Green.
Am I wrong about Crouch? Am I losing my mind?
Or I don't know if Crouch played or not.
I thought he did.
I don't remember him playing.
I'm almost positive.
Maybe he tried out. Did he actually play in a game?
I don't know if he played in a game, but I'm almost positive I went up there and did a story on him. But anyway, Garcia for sure.
But yeah, and we were just sitting and
no, hey, by the way, Crouch was definitely on that team.
And we started just talking, and he was like, yeah, I grew up with Bo. I knew Bo. And he kind of, he was really big with Maurice Claret growing up. Next thing you know, he's coaching at Nebraska.
Yeah.
And
then that, he had to leave because Bo's situation.
Yeah. Well, no. Yeah. He left before Bo was fired.
Oh, he did.
He left a year earlier because Bo could not get him a full-time job. Like, he wanted to be a full-time coach, and he was a grad assistant. So Vince left when Mark Stoops got the Kentucky job. He's been at Kentucky now for 12 years.
And then he became very prominent at Kentucky.
He became the highest paid non-coordinator in college football. Like, he was the highest paid assistant coach.
And again, the reason we've talked about this, I just didn't think he would. I have to say this carefully. He wouldn't have been a great fit at Nebraska. The culture in the SEC is much different than it is Nebraska, right? Vince Morrow's pushing envelopes all the time. He's pushing. And he'd make you a little nervous. Am I wrong?
Oh, he was a pain in Nebraska's side for Wandell Robinson. And they were able to get Wandell. Then Vince got Wandell back
to Kentucky. Right. So now there's some people are going to say, no, you need Vince Morrow at Nebraska. You need that type. I don't know. I mean, it's a culture discussion.
The one thing about guys like Vince is, like, they'll jump into other guys' positions and territories.
That's what I mean. SEC's, correct me if I'm wrong, a little more cutthroat.
And, Mickey was that kind of recruiter too.
Oh, absolutely. But probably dialed back a little bit. Not as ultra aggressive as Morrow.
Like, Mickey took
more willing to color within the lines.
So Mickey took a defensive end commit as an assistant coach when Nebraska already had Cameron Lenhart lined up to commit. And this defensive end commit, Mike Dawson, who's an NFL coach before he's at Nebraska, had a great evaluation. He knew Cam Lenhart was a good player. That's who their guy was. Well, then Mickey takes this other guy who I don't even think is playing ball at a high level anymore at all. And they took his commit, but then they basically had to tell the kid, like, hey, you don't have a spot. I'm sorry.
Kind of thing.
And then Frost, then they got Lenhart.
Yeah.
But so, yeah, when you have an assistant like a Mickey Joseph or a Vince Marrow, they tend to kind of butt into other coaches' positions or territories.
Yeah. And that stuff happens. We've been around it a long time. We're talking about a bunch of aggressive dudes, and They think they have the right guy.
The kind of guy that can go to a bar and talk to any woman, and they're not afraid.
I was resisting that analogy, but you went ahead with it.
Well, that's you, basically.
Stop. So yeah, that's Vince Martin. Is there anything else on your mind?
Baseball, they're getting a few more of these transfers. They've added a couple. That's something to keep your eyes on. I know there are at least 3 that they've added from the portal. Jet Buck is a power hitter from Washburn, 35 home runs in 2 years. Kevin Manell from Mississippi State, strong arm reliever, has joined the team as a senior. And then Cooper Kotsky from Miami of Ohio, who was 11-2 last year at Miami of Ohio. Looks like he could be a weekend rotation guy, has joined. So they are adding some transfers to the baseball team.
All right. Well, we covered a lot of ground.
Happy Father's Day. Happy Friday the 13th.
Friday the 13th. Ugh. I got to go get some lunch, Sean.
All right. For Steve Sipple, I'm Sean Callahan signing off for Husker Online Headlines.